to start with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Because for the longest time, I feel like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, they're prominent figures. I don't care for them, but a lot of people do. And a lot of people in this country still trust them and still believe their word. Well, ladies and gentlemen, things are changing, and it has everything to do with Israel and Gaza. Before I get into the news with Hillary Clinton, what happened to her this week, I want to remind you of what she said in this video more recently. And then I think you'll understand why what happened to Hillary happened to Hillary. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here.
People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis. So we're in a very different world. I don't think it had to be the world we're in, but that's where we are, and we've got to figure our way forward through it.
Okay. So we remember this conversation with Hillary Clinton, obviously Miss Queen of Warmongers, trying to make excuses for the United States government to fund and participate in another international conflict. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that message that just came from Hillary Clinton, people aren't buying it, including some of the students that Hillary Clinton has, because it appears this week students that attend Columbia University actually not only did not buy the rhetoric coming from Hillary Clinton's mouth, but they also decided to show her that they didn't buy it by walking out. Let's get into this article here from The Guardian. It says that students walk out of Hillary Clinton's class to protest Columbia's shaming pro-Palestinian demonstrators. Ladies and gentlemen, the narrative is starting to change. People are not buying it, Hillary. They are not buying it. So it starts off here and it says, dozens of students walked out of class taught by Hillary Clinton in New York on Wednesday in protest at their university's alleged role in shaming of pro-Palestinian demonstrators. About 30 students were involved in the protest at Columbia University, where the former Secretary of State and previous senator for the state was delivering a foreign policy lecture as part of her global affairs class. Now, we have to laugh here. Obviously, it is hilarious that Hillary Clinton, of all people, is leading a foreign policy lecture class as if she is one to talk. The walkout followed an incident last week in which photographs of students who signed a declaration blaming Israel for the 7 October Hamas attacks were displayed on video screens on trucks parked near the university's campus above the words Columbia's biggest anti-Semites. We talked about this before. This also happened to those students at Harvard University. The photographs, according to the protesters, were lifted from a secure and private student portal at Columbia's School of International and Public Affairs. The Times reported that the walkout was planned and peaceful, with those leaving almost halfway through Clinton's 2-hour lecture, attended by about 300 students, joining several dozen other demonstrators in the lobby of the school. They were demanding immediate legal support for affected students and a commitment to student safety, well-being, and privacy. So let me explain something clear for those who may not be aware of this. Typically, when you attend a university, there are certain websites for the universities that are private portals, meaning that you have to have credentials to log into that site and to get that information, to retrieve the information. But do you have permission to even display that information? So these were private things about these students that was not public information that was plastered across trucks that drove around campus. Same thing happened to the Harvard University students as well. So we're dealing with privacy issues here. It goes on to say the school's dean, Karen Milo, who co-teaches the class, spoke with the protesting students following the lecture and expressed her support for them, a university spokesperson said. Clinton had already left. The Democratic former presidential candidate has taken a strong pro-Israel stance since the conflict erupted last week, denouncing those calling for ceasefire as not understanding Hamas during a discussion at Rice University's Baker Institute. That was the video I just showed you. Columbia is among the universities that have become a flashpoint for protest over the war, with students on both sides angrily denouncing the other for the escalating violence and growing number of deaths. A rally at the campus last month, called by National Students for Justice in Palestine, was part of a day of resistance at Israel's military response to the attacks by Hamas, and also attracted a sizable group of pro-Israel protesters. The pro-Palestinian students whose faces were shown on screens near the campus last week had signed a declaration in support of Palestinian resistance against over 75 years of Israeli settler colonialism and apartheid. The statement said, in part, the weight of responsibility for the war and casualties undeniably lies with the Israeli extremist government. And I'm thankful that they said extremists, because I want to be very clear here. People like Hillary Clinton, who claim that Donald Trump is such a significant threat in this country, has no problem backing far-right extremist Netanyahu in Israel. And this is why I continue to tell you that these people are a joke. These people are a joke. You cannot come to me and stand before me and complain about far-right extremism in this country if you are willing to back far-right extremism in another country. So Hillary Clinton is a fraud. Barack Obama is a fraud. We'll get to him in just a second. Bernie Sanders is a fraud. Joe Biden is a fraud. All these people are frauds, and they are bought and paid for. Let's go on. In a statement to The Guardian, a Columbia spokesperson said the appearance of vehicles displaying students' photographs was concerning. Many individuals, including students across several schools, have been subject to these attacks by third parties. This includes disturbing incidents in which trucks have circled the Columbia campus, displaying and publicizing the names and the photos of Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian students. The university's overriding priority is the safety and security of its students and community. The university and SIPA take this responsibility very seriously, and this includes speaking out against doxing and dangerous form of intimidation as unacceptable. So I appreciate the university standing up for those students, because this is a serious concern. Some of us still feel like we have a right to privacy in this country. Let's go on. The university last week unveiled a new task force to counter student doxing. The intentional publication online of a person's private information, usually with malicious intent, and to enhance student safety. Let's go on to this point right here. Clinton, 76, Barack Obama's first-term Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013, began teaching her class called Inside the Situation Room at the start of the academic year in September. Some expressed frustration at the logistical impact of her presence, complaining that about 500 students in one of Columbia's most popular computer science classes were evicted to put up a nice stage for Clinton's high-profile lecture series. Yarhimilo interrupted one of Clinton's first lectures to allow students with cell phone cameras to take photographs of their celebrity teacher. This is like the paparazzi, Clinton said. Announcing her appointment in February, then the Columbia president, Lee Bollinger, said Clinton's class would explore fundamental questions about how to advance the renewal of democracy and foster more engagement with women and youth across the world. But the kids aren't buying it, because the kids are all right. They get what's going on. They see through it. And you have to thank social media, independent journalists, all of the people that have been providing the coverage, the videos, the information that mainstream media was purposely leaving out of their coverage. Had it not been for those people, had it not been for all these social media platforms, many people would not know about what was really happening to the Palestinian people. And because those videos have received so many views and they've been shared numerous times, mainstream media had no choice but to then start to discuss the other side. So this is an applause for independent media and for those platforms allowing that information to be shared. But it's not just Hillary Clinton. It's also Barack Obama. There was an interview that Obama had recently. Pod Save America shared this, where Barack Obama discussed the conflict with Israel and Gaza. But what is really interesting to me is that, again, Barack Obama is trying to discuss the both sides of this situation. Now, he's willing to explain that there needs to be self-determination for the Palestinian people. But make no mistake, if Barack Obama were to be more vocal, more stern about what has happened over the past 75 years to the Palestinian people, if he were to call out the apartheid issue in such a forceful way, Barack Obama would not be able to exist in the social circles and the wealthy circles that he exists in right now. They would run his ass off of Martha's Vineyard. You have to understand, this is all about status, this is about social circles, and this is all about money. So a lot of people are starting to call this out. This particular interview in particular is what made people start to scratch their heads.
If there's any chance of us being able to act constructively to do something, it will require an admission of complexity and maintaining what on the surface may seem contradictory ideas. That what Hamas did was horrific.
Let's pause there for just a second. Notice what Barack Obama is doing here. He's using the word complex, right? This is what people tend to do. Whenever you bring up this situation with Israel and Gaza, there are always those people, particularly the liberals, who come out of nowhere and say, it's complex. It's complicated. It's not an easy thing to discuss. No, it's actually very easy to discuss. They tell you that it's complex because they don't want to go through the whole history. They tell you that it's complex because they don't want to explain to you that this is an apartheid situation, that this is about colonization, that this is about stealing people's land, stealing their homes, stealing their dignity, putting them in an open air prison. That's why they tell you it's complex, because they don't want you to believe that the state of Israel and people like Netanyahu are in the wrong. So you have to understand that. That is why they use that word. Now watch him try to both sides of this situation.
And there's no justification for it. And what is also true is that the occupation and what's happening to Palestinians is unbearable. And what is also true is that there is a history of the Jewish people that may be dismissed unless your grandparents or your great-grandparents or your uncle or your aunt tell you stories about the madness of anti-Semitism. And what is true is that there are people right now who are dying who have nothing to do with what Hamas did. And
Let's pause and let's talk about history for a second. You got to understand and know who Pod Save America is. These people are in the Obama camp. Make no mistake about that. They heavily criticize the progressive movement. We all got to remember that. This is why a lot of us were so angry when AOC decided to go onto their podcast. Let's talk about history, Obama. Notice how he wants to call out the history of what happened to Jewish people in the world. And none of us are saying that that should not be discussed. But what we are saying is that you're leaving out a lot of information about that history when it comes to the Palestinian people. How did they lose the land that they had? There are Palestinians right now being pulled out of their homes in the West Bank. This is not just about Gaza. You can find the videos online. This is a serious issue that started 75 years ago. So if you want to talk about the history, Barack Obama, make sure you start all the way back then. Start talking about how it was actually Britain who made the decision of where Jewish people should go and settle to be safe. And for whatever reason, it seems to be pretty interesting that the countries that they were looking at were either Arab countries or they were African countries, because it wasn't just Palestine. One of the countries that they looked at as well was Uganda. So you got to ask this question. If Britain really cared so much and wanted Jewish people to be safe, why didn't they offer land in Germany to the Jewish people? Why didn't they? Why didn't they offer any of these European countries for land for those people to right the wrongs that was done? No, they wanted to go and take land from Arabic people and from African people. So when you want to talk about history, Barack Obama, you need to make sure you tell both sides of that story. We have moved to a place now where this is not just about religion. This is about the creation of an ethno-state. If it was just about religion, the Ethiopian Jews, the Palestinian Jews who are in Israel would be totally fine, but they're not. So that piece is very important. There's still a lot of people who need to be woken up. People want to talk about woke this and woke that. There are a lot of people who still need to be woken up about history in the world. And I'm talking about the history that's outside of your textbooks in school.
And what is true, right? I mean, we can go on for a while. And the problem with the social media and trying to TikTok activism and trying to debate this on that is you can't speak the truth. You can pretend to speak the truth. You can speak one side of the truth. And in some cases, you can try to maintain your moral innocence.
But this is Barack Obama speaking one side of the truth. That's the very problem with what he's saying right now. Now he has a problem with TikTok and social media. Next thing you know, he'll be calling for censorship. Just like he did in another video, another interview, he said, we got to check the disinformation.
That won't solve the problem. And so if you want to solve the problem, then you have to take in the whole truth. And you then have to admit nobody's hands are clean, that all of us are complicit to some degree.
Wrong. This is the part that got a lot of people fired up. Nah, Obama, I'm not complicit to some degree. I'm pretty sure most of you watching are not complicit to some degree. We haven't been president of the United States. We didn't make these foreign policy decisions. We're not the ones that voted to give $8.3 billion to Israel every year. It's our tax dollars. We have no say-so in how our tax dollars are spent. the ones that said, yes, take our tax dollars and donate it to Israel so that they can bomb more brown people. We didn't make those decisions, but you, Barack Obama, did. You were president. You were president for 2 terms. So don't try to put this on the American people, especially those of us that have not held a political position, because we did not make this decision. He's complicit. Wall Street is complicit. The military-industrial complex is complicit. The politicians in DC that support the legislation for this to continue and have continued to do so over the past couple of decades, they are the ones that are complicit. You don't get to push your war crimes on the American people. All of you push back on this. Who chose to bomb people in Libya? Us or Barack Obama? Let's go on.
I look at this and I think back, what could I have done during my presidency to move this forward as hard as I tried? I've got the scars to prove it. But there's a part of me that's still saying, well, was there something else I could have done? That's the conversation we should be having, not just.
That's the conversation that Barack Obama needs to have with himself. And this is Barack Obama playing you. Notice the way that Barack Obama speaks. This is one of the reasons why so many people believed him when he was running for president. He speaks in such a way that makes you think, oh man, some people are watching this and they're sitting back and they're saying, maybe Obama's right. Maybe there's something that I could have done. No, this ain't on you. This on him. And he knows exactly that there were things that he could have done differently. This is Barack Obama playing the American people.
Looking backwards, but looking forward. And that can't happen if we are confining ourselves to our outrage. I would rather see you out there talking to people, including people who you disagree with. If you genuinely want to change this, then you've got to figure out how to speak to somebody on the other side.
Pause. Let me make something very clear. I am not against talking to people on the other side. But Barack Obama is years too late. We are past talking. We are past talking, Obama. There is no more, hey, let's sit down and talk to people on the other side of this conflict. No, 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 no. This has been going on for over 75 years. People are past talking. People have been protesting. Palestinian people have had peaceful protests, and they have been assaulted while trying to have peaceful protests. We passed that point, Barack Obama, and this is why people took it to the streets. So the way I kind of see this is, again, no, people have been talking about this for decades. We are past talking. So fuck your talk. Period.
And listen to them and understand what they are talking about and not dismiss it. Because you can't save that child without their help. Not in this situation.
If you look at the comments on this video, like this one, you gotta love Gritty is the way. You have to love Gritty is the way. Gritty said, war criminal says what? Say what you will about President Obama, but his class and eloquence really made the deportation of 2.5 illegal immigrants, the bombing of 7 Muslim countries, the whitewashing of torture under Bush, the continuation of the drug war, the rampant prosecution of government whistleblowers, and his expansion of government surveillance go down smooth. But he's telling us we're all complicit when we weren't in charge. Just look at, all you got to do, look at the comments. Look at the comments. This one here is a guy looking at a pile of poop. I think that's from Jurassic Park. This one here from Demore Life Extension Institute. He caused incredible amounts of pain and suffering. Policies that triggered a wave of populism. Warmonger. I don't know about the populism part, but Barack Obama was a warmonger. An angel said it best. Thank you for this, Angel. Angel said, no, Barack Obama. We do not all have blood on our hands. She goes on to say here, the purpose of statements like that is to silence people by convincing them they're all hypocrites. People in positions of power make these decisions. Soldiers and settlers have blood on their hands. The rest of us are unwilling prisoners to the whims white supremacists. Thank you, Angel. Thank you for that. But people aren't buying it, guys. People aren't falling for it anymore. And gone are the days where Barack Obama can just come make a speech and kind of smooth things over. People are past being smooth. You can't smooth rough edges that don't want to smooth. You know, it's like the edges around people right now are really rough. And right now, there's no amount of buffering that you can use to smooth those edges. Too much time has gone by. Too much. So those days are starting to go away. The days where Obama and Hillary Clinton can no longer come in and save the Democratic Party and save and maintain the status quo narrative. Things are changing. Let's go to some of the comments here. Whoever said we need to create a social climate in which respect and justice is expected and not something people think they have to beg to get. Deneen, I was educating my 91-year-old mother about this yesterday. She didn't know any of the historical context. And this is great. And thank you so much for doing that, Deneen. Like, we really have to educate people. We really do. Thank you for the super chat, Farouz. Thank you, Sabby, for your honesty. Thank you. Happy birthday, Randy. Happy birthday. Everyone give Randy a big happy birthday. Whoop, whoop. Jane said, but he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Deborah, Obama takes us for fools. We are on to his act. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And thank you, Disco Phil. We took natives' land. America conquered them, put them in designated areas. We Americans benefit from this immoral history. Can we reconcile this? I think that would cause the push for land back. There are a lot of people that are pushing land back. I think that could be one of the ways to do that.